We've all learned about D-Day, the largest invasion in military history. There are so many stories we are still discovering, including one from a Chesapeake man. He's now making sure the experiences of his loved one and others who fought and died live forever. 80 years later, Andrew Payne can never forget the D-Day landings that helped lead to Hitler's defeat.
I remember April 28 because that was the day that my uncle died. And that was leading up to D-Day, of course.
He never met his uncle, but he wanted to learn more about him.
And we don't have his diary. We don't have his detailed history, but enough accounts exist that we can stitch that together. And I'm trying to do that so I can pass it on.
Each stitch, each book, each picture holds a clue to the past. Though the two men never met, Andrew feels a connection thanks to his research.
We were bombing factories, they were bombing rail yards, they were bombing concentrations of troops wherever they could find them.
Captain Joseph Bubbles Payne. Where did the nickname Bubbles come from?
Well, honestly, I don't know. It's mentioned in several of his books, so I know it's legitimate.
He was the lead navigator for the bloody 100th Squadron. His squadron helped lay the groundwork to eliminate German air support leading up to D-Day.
Most of these guys were kids.
Completing over 20 missions until he died at just 23 years old, it was without question that Andrew wanted to follow in his footsteps.
I went in the Navy and retired after 24 years.
Writing his own story, while never forgetting the sacrifice made by so many before him.
We lost all these good men and women in the war in a sacrifice that most of us don't understand. So what's left for us to do is to honor their sacrifice.
Very tiring, but you got to get through it. That's what I signed up for.
We're up at 7 in the morning for physical training. We shut down 10, 11 at night.
We don't worry about competition. We worry about, being the best that we can be.
And the best starts here. A muddy, makeshift football field outside Ham Fine Arts Building. Yard lines worn away. The final days of a 3-week band camp. This is where the 2023 Norfolk State University Spartan Legion takes shape.
Their energy is off the charts, and I love it though.
You got to practice a lot too, but it's whatever. You got to get through it.
Daniel People and Ajarius King Turner are both from Chesapeake, freshman trumpet players eager to prove they can keep up.
I've been looking at them for years, seeing their hard work, their dedication, seeing them go to Charlotte, Atlanta, seeing them go to the Rose Bowl.
The 2023 Rose Parade in January, a national audience with its eyes on a marching band from a historically black university in Virginia.
It was a life-changing year.
The season also included big competitions and performing for hip-hop legend Missy Elliott.
The third solo, maybe?
William Bethea has been the man in charge 9 years now, and he says those experiences have a way of sticking.
The exposure we got for the school, for Norfolk, the state of Virginia, it was phenomenal. Our enrollments has gone up here. The band has, I had maybe 215 in the Rose Parade. We're 240 now.
And for members old and new, there's a standard to meet, and it's hanging all around Bethea's office.
We have one of the best band programs in the country. Our performances exhibit great enthusiasm and energy, and we are really, really good at directly relating to the crowd.
But if you don't look good and sound good, what does it matter? Well, that's where the drum majors come in, the Legion's student leaders.
I'm really big on speed of the leader, speed of the pack. So they follow us because we do what we have to do.
All through band camp, they push for excellence.
They have to learn marching, they have to learn music, they have to learn drill.
As in where you move on the field.
You got a lot of people that come from high schools that don't do this style, this type of high knee lifts, show style.
And the music is all memorized for performances. Yeah, it's intense, but there's a reason why most of the musicians here are not music majors.
I want to develop discipline, time management, work ethic, creativity, teamwork. While we're doing all that, I want to have fun. I want to laugh.
Who doesn't? It's why I marched in college at Michigan State, and why I dusted off my trumpet for this story, hoping these Spartans would welcome another.
Then up, then you hit a little branch plate. Da 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 da. Then it's a G.
Okay.
Hold it down. kind of like you're shooting a basketball with your left hand.
The biggest thing about this is just having fun.
Okay, I can do that. I can have fun. But I gotta tell you, nothing can prepare you for a little tradition called Pancake House.
3 in the morning! Hey! 3 in the morning at the Pancake House!
You know, they were right. It was fun. But retirement is treating me a little too well.
Oh, shoot.
Besides, big things were around the corner. Band camp ends with a performance for friends and family in Eccles Hall Basketball Arena. And last Saturday, the Spartan Legion joined other HBCUs in the National Battle of the Bands in Houston. Just another season started with a bang.
We have to be better than yesterday. We have to be better than the bands before that came before us.
This year, we're sort of going back to our roots, make sure our discipline is high, our fundamentals are good, and then we'll see, from our excellence what it yields.
No! At Norfolk State University, Anthony Sabella, News 3.
You're hearing the ways of your ancestors who came from Africa. And you can remember where you came from.
Remembering and honoring the past. An old conch shell sits at these graves that inspired Charles Johnson's mission.
Great-grandmother's buried here, my great-grandfather's buried here, then other relatives are buried along here.
All in this plot at Mount Olive Cemetery. The historic African-American cemetery opened in 1879, Johnson says. Its graves are among the oldest of the thousands in Portsmouth's massive Mount Calvary complex.
An estimated 12,000 people buried here.
Born early enough, he tells me many buried here likely spent time enslaved. Even in death, though, not entirely free.
It's here because of segregation. There was no place for African Americans to be buried.
And so he says black families were often left with the land of least value. Here, flooding is a major problem. Grave markers are crumbling, others sinking into the ground. Burials at the complex haven't been allowed for decades. Johnson is the president of the African American Historical Society in Portsmouth, which has worked to preserve and restore the endangered site. He says a big win was getting the city to take ownership.
They now will maintain the areas, the grass, the trees, and so forth. They do not maintain the plot because those are technically private. We reached out to the federal government and asked, could we get new stones? Because a lot of the stones of the military personnel, there are about 55 of them now.
But the work doesn't stop here.
Preservation to us is about consistency. In this region, most of the African American cemeteries are no longer existing. If they are existing, they're unknown.
Even though it's been around a long time, Mount Olive is still relatively visible, but other historic African American cemeteries in our area, they're hidden in plain sight, like this one here in the Newsom Farms neighborhood in Virginia Beach.
I used to come by here and I used to say, oh my God, that looks so bad.
A cemetery smack dab in the middle of Linda Carrington's neighborhood off Newtown Road. And if you don't know where to look, you might miss the graves covered in leaves and tree limbs.
Because this is Gumball City.
According to city documents, freed slaves initially bought the surrounding land in 1869. The cemetery first recorded not long after that. Today, there's some confusion over who actually owns the property. News 3 first met Carrington and Newsom Park Civic League President Harry Kirkley 2 years ago.
We just launched a program, a springtime program in April to do a mass cleanup. All volunteers come along, we help us pick up the limbs and the leaves.
This is their resting place, and I just wanted it to be the grass cut, a little bit of flowers on it, and like last summer I came out here and I put flowers on every grave.
But now they want something more permanent, like a sign. Carrington says the cemetery will likely be a historic tour stop when the Virginia African American Cultural Center is built down the street, so a sign would help. But first, they have to know where all the graves are located, even those unmarked, and how many there are. Kirkley told me he knows of 66, but new results from a ground scan could change things.
So the green ones are most likely graves. Are some of these graves that you didn't know were there?
Right, some of them we didn't know there. Now with this, we got a possibility of more than 66.
It's a similar mission several miles to the east in the historic African-American community of SeaTac. Saints Rest Cemetery sits at the end of a street called Beautiful. Nearby St. Stephen's Church first bought the land in the 40s, and now graves go right up to the woods. But could there be some hidden graves among the trees? The church expects to find out soon.
A contractor to come out with the GPS to identify if there's any unmarked graves.
That question was part of the concern in the fight against a proposed battery facility here last year. These days, though, I'm told the focus is mainly on restoration.
Yes.
Right here?
Yes, sir.
Pastor Bruce Hughes leading the charge in honor of his family buried here.
Affordable place for our church members to be buried, along with, the location was convenient for everyone. So it's important for us to maintain, to keep the history going.
But similar to Portsmouth, this marshy land retains water. Such a challenge that burials have stopped entirely. Finding all the graves is just one in a multi-step project, the church's most important, expected to take years. Delvery Davis, the manager, committed to making this cemetery on Beautiful Street worthy of its name.
Saints Rest. Just think of that name. Saints Rest. That means that it draws you closer to the Lord. I want you to be able to enter into His rest in a peaceful place that while you're alive, you can see all the renovation.
It will be a great honor for me to get this totally restored. I'll be probably the happiest man on earth.
At these historic African-American cemeteries, countless untold stories waiting to be rediscovered. The people still walking this earth determined to honor them. Anthony Sabella, News 3.
Guys, you can, I don't know if you're back to me now or not, but you can hear the emotion. You can hear how this case has captivated, as I said, captivated Hampton Roads. I was there in January of 2022. I was there. I saw the crime scene tape. I saw them going in and out of Corey Bigsby's apartment. This has something that has touched us all. And you mentioned...
We know several members of the community have...
We are following Corey's, a relative of Corey's right now. Mr. Brown, do you have anything you would like to comment?
I don't have any comments, but I tell you this. They got what they wanted, so I'm hoping that they're happy and hoping that you all are happy. Okay? You understand? I'm hoping that they're happy. You all presented the case. You all presented the case the way that y'all wanted, as if he was guilty already and everything, so y'all should be satisfied.
Sir, are you going to appeal?
We'll talk about it.
You still believe he's alive?
I don't want to.
Now you don't know. Can we hear him, please? Can we hear him? We need to hear him.
I don't want to say something that, I might have to regret one day. So I think it's best that I go to lunch like we're headed, okay?
What are the next steps in appeals court? Do you all plan to go there and argue your case?
Yeah, and Ellen, we probably need to fact check the defense attorney there saying that it was something that the media wanted. I mean, we've covered a case. There was a disappearance. We investigated it.
I found that interesting as well. I thought for sure he would say one way or the other that he was either appealing or not, but he glossed over that question pretty quickly. And
Thank you. Yes, we just heard the sentencing information. They finally settled on the date of June 18th. If you recall, that's kind of ironic in this case. June 18th is when police have told us they believe that the father killed Cody. So that would be 3 years.
All right, Ellen, we're going to let you go because we know you and Angela will be working on the team coverage that we will be having coming up today on News 3 at 4.